Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Tim Dillon was on with Fox News Digital and goofed on one of my favorite comedic targets, and that is Meghan Markle. Now, I'm the writer on the Palace Intrigue podcast about the royal family, so I write about Meghan 7 days a week, so I'm very familiar with what everything's going on. And Tim said, I think she came to prominence at a time when there was a real cultural cachet to being a victim, and I thought it was a very funny way to be a victim, and she found a way to be a victim while living in a castle. And I always found that very funny. I think she's a great comedic actress. I think there was a real currency in being a victim when she rose to prominence. And she became a victim living in a castle, married to a prince with the royal wedding. And I thought that was really funny. It's hard to pull it off. She did it, to her credit. You know, most people that were putting out that they were victims during that era were, to their credit, not members of the royal family. Tim then talked about poor Prince Harry and said, Harry seems like he's kind of been led around and he kind of doesn't know what's going on. It's probably all adventure for him, right? Love Tim Dillon. And you can follow along and kind of goof on the royal family. Listen to Palace Intrigue wherever you get your shows. The Hollywood Reporter did a wax job for Seth Meyers' car. I don't know why. A lot of Seth Meyers press recently. They asked him about writing for SNL's 50th. Seth said, it was funny because I wrote on the 40th and I was very fresh from having left and I fell right back into being a head writer. This time, I felt like a guy trying to make a comeback in baseball as a 50-year-old and he's kind of throwing in his backyard and he's like, oh yeah, I still kind of got it. But this current writing staff is really great and the person I was most impressed with was Colin Jost. Seth says Jost wanted to make sure everybody was taken care of, which often gets overlooked at SNL. I mean, every good writer at SNL is always looking out for the cast, but to some degree, you're always like, well, there's next week. But with the 50th, you don't want people to get shut out. I was at the table read. It was one of those moments in life where you realize this is probably the last time this is going to happen for me. It was very special. And in the back of your head, there's an anxiety of like, am I doing enough? Am I adding enough value? Seth tells us for the 50th, there was very little that was pulled at the last minute. Once you ask Eddie Murphy to do a sketch, you're not going to cut the sketch, by the way, nor will you ever be in a position where you think you should. But in general, it was a really cool thing. Could they top this? Say there was a 60th anniversary at which Lorne Michaels would be 90. Seth said, yeah, this was a little bittersweet, and it might be the last great showbiz party. Again, we're all aware we're living at different times, but I didn't feel like a single corner had been cut. And the after party was amazing. I will say the only part, and this was the other difference of 10 years, is at some point we realized the next day was Monday, and we had to be parents again. So my wife and I did great. I mean, we stayed out until 3, but the next day I was literally taking 2 of my kids to the Bluey experience. I wasn't even hungover. It was emotional exhaustion. Then I was at the Bluey store, and every parent at the Bluey store is hoping there's someone there they could talk to about something cooler than Bluey. So the number of parents coming over like, I can't believe you're out. And I'm like, yeah, me neither. They then go on to talk about late night. Maybe I'll go into that tomorrow. The Dallas Observer had a wonderful, wonderful review of Rob Schneider's show. The headline, Rob Schneider's You Can Do It tour had us wishing he wouldn't. The Observer writes, the SNL alums show was a sad display of a comedian who now only knows how to pander to your Facebook uncle. Sounds like Lauren Upshaw did not have a good time at the show. She wrote about Rob's move towards the right and his comedy special on Fox Nation. The Observer put comedy in quotes. She writes, when we heard he was playing the Granada, we thought maybe we're missing something. Maybe he's grown as a person and his interesting insight in the time following the ascendancy of the Orange One. Or maybe we just love a little bit of good cringe. And in that vein, we were truly not disappointed. The crowd was diverse in the sense that it was made up of seemingly older rich white folks who had not seen Deuce Bigalow and the rest of the white people who definitely had seen it. The opening act was a Vegas performer who began the show with standards before pivoting midway through the set to crooner versions of classic hip-hop. The crowd loved it, and it was admittedly great. Until the last couple of songs took a sharp turn, becoming a croon list of people to get effed. The first real applause during the set erupted when the singer said, F Oprah. It was clear the crowd was there to see someone stick it to the libs, and early on, it seemed that desire would be fulfilled. The second act gave us a revolting anti-feminist tirade for about 30 minutes. Her jokes were typical conservative attempts at meme fodder, such as, don't worry, honey, there's no chance you'll need an abortion because you're so ugly, no one would have sex with you. Then Schneider came out. The theme of the night was free speech. The Observer writes, the set was made strange by the fact that it didn't seem to be based on conviction or even a desire to provoke thought. Instead, it came across like Schneider was just trying to use outlandish buzzwords to claim victimhood. If not a grift, it was quite lazy writing at the best. I'm sitting on this one. I've bounced this several weekends in a row. Let me just clear this out. Variety did a big fluff piece about Rob McElhenney and Kaitlin Olson. We're told how successful they are with 2 businesses, linear TV and a UK football club. We hear from Charlie Day, who said it would be very impressive if just one of them was going on a run, but the fact is that both of them are stringing together a series of real successes. They're on a tear. Kaitlin Olson's High Potential is a smash hit, one of the biggest shows on TV right now. Yeah, I guess. Let me see how that's doing. And please understand, I love Kaitlin Olson. From Variety on May 13th, they wrote, per the network, High Potential was its top-rated freshman drama in 7 years. Craig Erwick, president of Disney Television Group, says, High Potential is truly the story of the year. If you look at the multi-platform ratings this year, it does, I think, about double the ratings of Matlock. Wow, impressive. It stands among the giants of shows that are on right now. I think the momentum of the show will continue. According to this Variety article, High Potential, broadcast plus streaming 18 to 49, gets a 2.47 rating. That is better than other shows like Abbott Elementary at 2.12, The Rookie at 1.70, Shifting Gears, Tracker, Ghosts, Survivor, and Bob's Burgers at number 9, and that show doesn't even exist. Then Variety gets on to waxing Rob's car about Wrexham and how well they've done. We're told how Kaitlin is on Hacks. She is very good on Hacks. And don't forget, Sunny returns in July for its 17th season. They're also in business together as investors in the Philly bar Max Tavern. Glenn Howerton says, Rob tends to succeed. He's very smart, humble, and a collaborative person. I'm extremely proud of him. And Kaitlin, I don't know how she does it. She's on 3 different TV shows. What the F is going on, man? If I want to do what those two were doing, there'd probably be part of me that was jealous, but it all sounds very exhausting. I'm too damn lazy to do all that stuff. It's just too much happening. Boy, publicist, you deserve one hell of a raise for this fluff piece. They even got Danny DeVito to say he's an impressive guy, and I've always thought Kaitlin was the funniest one on the show. She's not only gorgeous, but has the timing and is a natural comedian. This is like the fluff job of fluff jobs I've ever seen. Rob is pondering a name change, he says, as our business and our storytelling is expanding into other regions of the world and other languages in which my name is even harder to pronounce. I'm just going by Rob Mack. Kaitlin Olson said, the kids are really not happy about it because they have their last name, and so do I, legally. The fluff piece then goes on to the first year of Sunny. Rob said during season 1, he didn't quit his job as a waiter. Sunny was paying him $7,500 an episode, minus taxes and commission, and there was no guarantee the show would keep going. He says of that season, that was our chance, and we're very proud of those episodes. It was certainly unlike anything else on TV. We knew we were betting on ourselves. John, the FX boss, was very upfront with us, saying, we're taking a risk on you. You came in and said you want to be the showrunner. You're not even the head waiter at a restaurant, but I believe in you. That sounds like some retro storytelling. Can you imagine you're sitting in the office and then the head of FX is like, you're not even the head waiter. I don't know. And I've run into some jerks, and the guy, John Landgraf, does not have a reputation for being a jerk. So I think that story might be a little massaged. The piece then gets into Rob and Kaitlin becoming friends and then more of a relationship. Glenn Howerton said, how did I not see this was happening? She would come over and then get too drunk and sleep there. In retrospect, she wasn't really that drunk. She was just using that as an excuse to stay at our apartment. And then Rob would disappear for a couple nights and I'd be like, what's going on? He'd tell me he went out with some girl making stuff up. Charlie Day said, I thought, what's the big deal? I think I remember Glenn was a little more thrown off. Glenn responds saying, I thought he was doing a bit because he knows the stupidest thing you could possibly do is date your co-star. You're compromising the show and everyone's job. If that goes south, you're effed, and the whole show is effed, and you effed everybody. So I laughed, and he was like, no, I'm serious. Anyway, this thing goes on and on and on. I think there's some storytelling here. A nice narrative has been created, and if you're the publicist for Rob McElhenney and Kaitlin Olson, you deserve more money. Screen Rant writes, I really hope Happy Gilmore 2 is Adam Sandler's first great comedy in 27 years. See, I agree with that, except I would phrase it, I really hope Happy Gilmore 2 is Adam Sandler's first great comedy, and I wouldn't put a time period on it. I agree with Screen Rant when they write, Sandler has undeniably starred in plenty of great movies over the past few years. They've mostly been dramas. Uncut Gems, Hustle, Punch Drunk Love are the best of the best of the best. Johnny Mac, big fan of Adam Sandler, dramatic actor. Comedy, not so much. And I thought this was interesting. They pulled the Rotten Tomato scores for Adam Sandler comedies after The Wedding Singer. Waterboy, Critics 34, audience is 71. Big Daddy, critics 39, audience is 74. I'm just going to do the splits. I'm not going to keep saying the words critics and audiences, okay? Little Nicky, 22.55. Mr. Deeds, 22.59. 8 Crazy Nights, 13 and 50. Anger Management, 42 and 59. 50 First Dates, 45 and 65. Spanglish, 54 and 60. The Longest Yard, critics 32, audience is 62. The original with Burt Reynolds, fantastic film. Click, 34 and 66. Chuck and Larry, 15 out of critics, 69 audiences. Zohan, 38 and 45. Bedtime Stories, I don't even remember that, 27 and 55. Grown Ups, 10% from critics, 62 audiences. Just Go With It, 19 critics, 59 audiences. Zookeeper, 14% from critics. Jack and Jill, the one that my kids still talk about. They wanted to rent it on pay-per-view one day, and I said, I'm just going to take the $5 and light it on fire. Critics, 3%. Audiences, 36. That's My Boy, 21 and 51. Grown Ups 2, 8% critics, 53 audiences. Blended, 15 and 64. The Cobbler, 10 and 36. Pixels, 18 and 46. The Ridiculous Six, critics gave it 0. Is that possible? Even I don't give Adam Sandler movies 0. Audience is 36. The Do-Over, 9 and 42. Sandy Wexler, boy, this guy has put out a lot of stuff, hasn't he? 27 and 39. The Week Of, 26.35. Murder Mystery, 43.46. Hubie Halloween, another one I like to hate on, 52 out of critics, 38 audiences. Murder Mystery 2, 46 and 45. They write, if there was ever a movie that seemed tailor-made for Adam Sandler's comedy comeback, it's Happy Gilmore 2. It would be great if Happy Gilmore 2 finally realized that Adam Sandler isn't enough to make a film successful on its own. There needs to be a level of craft and writing ability on display that's been missing for the rest of his filmography. I don't disagree. And that is your comedy news for today. See you tomorrow.